Welcome to the SkullKing Football Podcast, presented by Fox DFS Firelines. Now, here are your hosts, Justin and Ryan Skullrood.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan Skullrood, and we have an exciting show for you tonight. Well, I guess I have an exciting show for you tonight. Justin was not able to make it, so it's just going to be me again. Hopefully we'll be able to get him on tomorrow night's show for our big prediction show. So tonight we are going to go over a couple things, and go some news and notes. We've got a couple of listener questions, a couple of mailbag questions from the SleeperBot app on there, and at the end I'm going to go over a little bit of a rant I've had from the last couple days that kind of finally reached a boiling point this morning. And so if you're on the SkullKing Fantasy Football Facebook group, you've probably already seen it. If you haven't, I will kind of go over what I said on there, and hopefully you guys will agree with me, and that'll be good. So real quick, before we get started, I wanted to let you guys know that SkullKing is running sort of a pick'em type of league on a website called sundayswim.com. It's sort of like a betting in terms of, you know, the point spread on games on Sunday mornings, but it's completely free. It's not illegal. You can play it anywhere in the world, anywhere in the United States. It's a league that we've kind of set up. We were kind of in a contest to see, you know, which league could fill up between a bunch of podcasts, which league could fill up to 100 first. It's looking like we're not going to win. I mean, there's one group at like 92 and we're at 20 people. So, however, before the games get going, we want to keep encouraging people to sign up, and here's why. Because we are giving away a Tevin Coleman signed jersey and a TY Hilton signed photo to a couple lucky winners of people who are in the draft or who join the league. So what we're going to do is we're going to put everyone's name in the hat, and we will use those as prizes, just kind of random drawing for those who join the league. And so, we won't have like a prize at the end of the league for that, or end of the year for that. But we will, like I said, we'll have a couple giveaways. Just, you know, it gives everyone a chance to win on that. But definitely work for bragging rights at the end of the season. So that's, again, sundayswim.com. Go to join public leagues and join the SkullKing Football Podcast League. There's still a few more days to do that. You'll have to enter in your email. You'll have to confirm your email to officially be joined in, and then you'll be in, and we'll have some fun. Seeing who's the best at picking the games on Sunday. A little outside of fantasy football interaction, which I think will be a whole lot of fun for us. So that's the one announcement that I've got there. Let's go ahead and hop into the news. The Chargers coach Anthony Lynn said that Antonio Gates will practice on Wednesday. There's some interesting information that happened the last few days while we've not been able to do podcasts because of drafts for all of us. The Chargers signed Antonio Gates and then ended up putting Hunter Henry, I believe, on the PUP instead of season-ending IR. So it's possible that he could still be coming back because of how long it's been since he tore his ACL. He tore it not even in training camp. It was like in OTAs or something. And so there's a possibility, they're leaving the possibility open that Hunter Henry could come back sometime in the year. I'm not necessarily counting on it because usually that's about a 12-month recovery. Usually. Don't tell that to Deshaun Watson, though. So I'm not seeing Antonio Gates as too much more than, just a touchdown upside guy. He's not going to have massive weeks. I think he'll be a value play in DFS. He'll be a desperation streamer, to be completely honest. I don't see him having a whole lot of success, but he will still be a little bit of a safety blanket here and there for Rivers, though Keenan Allen's basically kind of taking that position over. Okay, so here's the thing that's been going on all over. Who's going to start at running back in San Francisco? Well, we officially saw today that even though Alfred Morris a couple days ago seemed like he was going to be the starter, Matt Breida was officially handling the first team reps this week, and Morris handling second team reps. I guess it has come out that Alfred Morris does not know the entire playbook yet. Still working on that. So for right now, it looks like Matt Breida. I think Breida is the better option in PPR leagues. Alfred Morris could take over the role. He looked really, really good running the ball. He's more of a standard option, a standard league option, but could be a low end flex play, especially in deeper leagues if you need the help. But Matt Breida is, for the most part, is the one who's going to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Alfred Morris is more just running the ball. But once Morris gets a little more time in this playbook, I think he could be the one to take over, especially considering that he is the one who has been in this system before. The first 3 years of his career, he was the one running for Kyle Shanahan. Rookie year, 1,600 yards, 1,300 yards, 1,100 yards in his first 3 seasons running the ball in this system. So I definitely think that Morris could very well take over the position. Again, he would be more of that first and second down kind of a guy. Matt Breida can run first and second downs, but again, he can also catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit better. So for right now, Breida is the option, especially in PPR leagues, which again, that's kind of how we roll here at SkullKing. That's where the industry seems to be going. So that's what we discuss, what we talk about. So again, Breida is more the option. If you can get both, get both. That way you can kind of play around and see who's going to take over. If you have to choose between which one you're going to use, you're either in a really deep league or you're already in trouble. Let's be completely honest. We're talking straight here. It's Breida's your best option right now, but you don't want to have to depend on him already in week 1. Ajayi is back practicing on Tuesday with his foot injury. We'll see how long he lasts. There's a ton of running backs in Philadelphia. I am not completely sold on Ajayi for this year. He's going to get more of a workload because LeGarrette Blount is now in Detroit. So he'll still be more of that first and second down guy. They've got Corey Clement, who showed, at least in the Super Bowl, can be a very good pass catching guy. They got Wendell Smallwood, who can run the ball, and Darren Sproles. So there's still lots of options there. Lots of people who could take away a little bit of work from Ajayi. Concerning news, Steelers head coach Mike Tomlin on the still absent Le'Veon Bell, perhaps showing up tomorrow, or if you're listening to this today, which would end up being Wednesday. I hadn't thought about it. We'll see. He says that he has not been in contact with Bell this week. So, if you did not draft James Conner, but drafted Le'Veon Bell, you were probably in a little bit of trouble in week 1. Things could turn out different for you, depending on how you were able to draft throughout the rest of the draft and how deep you were able to go and pick up running backs and all that. But for right now, it does not look good for Le'Veon Bell to play week 1. I'm still not worried about him being productive once he comes back. It just doesn't look good for week 1. James Conner will be a start. We should have a really good week. I'm not seeing really any troubles with him. He's a very good runner. I think is a 4.5 yard per carry guy. Just doesn't catch. Let's be honest, he just doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield as well as Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is basically the slot receiver and the running back. And so I think that James Conner will have a good week, based on the fact that they are playing the Cleveland Browns. Even though the Cleveland Browns have improved their defense, let's be honest, they've looked really good in the preseason, but it's preseason. We want to see what's actually going to happen once the rubber hits the road in the season. But James Conner is a very good running back, solid stats, 4.5 yards per carry, hits the holes really well. So I think that Conner will still be successful for the most part this next week. Staying with the Steelers, Mike Tomlin also said that Antonio Brown will be a full go for week 1 against the Browns. I would expect nothing less than Antonio Brown. It's got to take something big in order for him to not be ready to go. We've had a couple of these, and so this should be a whole lot of fun. The Dolphins' Week 1 depth chart lists Kenyon Drake or Frank Gore as the starter at running back. This is not good for all those people who drafted Kenyon Drake just expecting him to be the guy. I kind of expected him to be the guy, but I was still a little bit hesitant, and so I held off on drafting him and kept drafting wide receivers. Honestly, if Kenyon Drake is having that much trouble separating from Frank Gore, Frank Gore's 34, 35 now, and is basically just is a hammerback. Let's be completely honest. A goal line type with how he runs the ball. Kenyon Drake can do a lot. He can run the ball between the tackles. He can catch the ball outside, on the swing pass, run the ball out of the backfield, around the outside. The fact that they're still right now saying "or" for week 1 could mean that they're trying to push Kenyon Drake a little bit harder, to work at it a little bit harder. Could be. Or it's not looking that great and he's just not separating from Frank Gore, which if that's the case, that's really sad. Steelers seem ready to start James Conner in the season opener. I think that's pretty much a definite at this point, that's not going to be much of an issue. The Bucs, here's another one. The Buccaneers list Chris Godwin or Deshaun Jackson as the starter opposite Mike Evans. If you're on the Sleeperbot app, you've probably seen the poll going on right now. God, what did they put the poll at? I'm a Chris Godwin believer. Right now, 1,238 votes for Godwin compared to 143 votes for Djax. Now, I want to break this down just a little bit. Now, I know that Deshaun Jackson has been very, very productive throughout most of his career, but he has been falling off a little bit. Chris Godwin last year really he was a guy that we believed in going into the season last year. As one of the guys that we covered in our pre-draft coverage. Talked to the play-by-play voice for Penn State Radio about just the kind of player that Chris Godwin is. And there's one thing that really kind of sticks out to me. It doesn't have his targets here. I want to say in all the games where he received at least 3 targets, there were 6 of them last year. All the games where he received at least 3 targets, he finished with less than 44 yards once. In the games where he received at least 6 I think it was 6 targets, or maybe it was only 4. I think it was 6 targets. Games where he received at least 6 targets, he finished with no less than 68 yards in receiving. One of those games, last game of the season, I want to say he had 12 targets, 7 catches, 111 yards, and a touchdown. So the guy has the ability. He showed it at Penn State, and he started to show it last year towards the end of the season. They started trusting him more. After week 9, you go week 10, 68 yards, 5 for 68, 2 for 38, 1 for 17, 2 for 24. Then 5 for 68, 1 for 18, 3 for 98, and 7 for 111. The guy can ball. And so I'm seeing his, having watched his game film, he runs very crisp routes. I'm a Godwin believer. I have him on both my fantasy teams this year. If he hasn't been drafted, if you're in a little bit smaller league, he's probably not going to be fantasy relevant for the most part for you. But if you're saying a 10 to 12 team league and no one picked him up, definitely he's a guy to look at on waivers to kind of stash away if you can. So yeah, I picked Chris Godwin over Deshaun Jackson. The Miami Herald reports that Devontae Parker's finger is feeling substantially better, but that there is still some uncertainty whether he will be ready for the first or even the second game of the season. Now, I'm not going to go and say that Devontae Parker is trash, but he has not proven, for me, he has not proven to stay healthy, which is one reason why I never drafted him. That's somewhere that I'm just not going. I tend to be risk averse, especially when it comes to injuries. That's something I try to avoid as much as possible, guys that have perpetually injured. And so I like Kenny Stills for Miami. I think that he could have a really good year, especially with the fact that Devontae Parker is just struggling. He can't get on the field. He's dealing with a finger issue, then it's a thigh issue last year, calf. Doesn't matter. I think that Kenny Stills will be the number one in Miami in terms of wide receivers. And so I'm avoiding the litany of injuries that Devontae Parker has. Interesting, Chad Williams is listed as the Cardinals' number 2 receiver behind Larry Fitzgerald. Chad Williams is a guy that I kind of looked at last year. They drafted him because of his size. He's got decent speed, but it's because of his size. He's like 6 foot, like 210 pounds. He's 215. He's a stocky guy, built somewhat like Larry Fitzgerald, only about 4 inches shorter. And they basically got him to take over for Fitz once he decides to retire. I like Chad Williams, but I don't think he'll be fantasy relevant. It's not very often that any wide receiver in Arizona has ever been fantasy relevant other than Larry Fitzgerald, except for the little while that they had, Anquan Bolden. But especially since they got DJ. Now that they have David Johnson, he is their number 1 runner and their number 2 receiver, with Larry Fitzgerald as their number 1 receiver. And Larry Fitzgerald is basically their slot receiver and their tight end, because that's basically how he plays. So Chad Williams is listed as the number 2. We'll see how long that lasts, especially with Christian Kirk getting drafted this year and having a pretty good preseason. But really, I don't think it's really fantasy relevant for the most part. It's all going to be about DJ and Fitz. Panthers wide receiver Curtis Samuel is recovering from a procedure to correct an irregular heartbeat, is expected to miss week 1. That's never something that you ever want to hear about, something like that, where it's a health issue that isn't specifically injury related. So that's definitely something to we hope that he is able to get back on the field soon, and hope that he is able to recover quickly. No surprise here. Chris Carson is listed as the starting running back on the Seahawks Week 1 depth chart. That's not surprising. Penny will probably be, I'm going to guess number 2 or 3 to start it off. I think that Penny is more of the be able to catch the ball out of the backfield a little bit. I think they may split a bit. We'll see who kind of takes over. For right now, my gut is still on Carson. I think that Penny will probably even return kicks, and that sort of thing. So we'll see how it goes. But for right now, I still think it's Carson. Moving on, Ronald Jones is listed as the number 3 back on the Bucs initial depth chart. That does not surprise me. He's had an absolutely horrific preseason, which is why a lot of us were saying, draft Peyton Barber, just avoid the headache of Ronald Jones. Chris Thompson looks fantastic. He looks great. He's ready to go, says Jay Gruden of the Washington Redskins. I like Chris Thompson for this year. He'll be that pass out of the backfield guy that Charkandrick West was a lot for Alex Smith. Now that he is the quarterback over there, I like Chris Thompson. Jordan Reed is getting there, so I'm not expecting Jordan Reed to play Week 1. He was a guy that I've been kind of talking to about avoiding Week 1 simply because I just don't think he can stay healthy. Again, that's one of those guys that I'm just staying away from. I'm okay to be wrong on him too. Cowboys tight end Jeff Swaim is listed as the starter on the team's depth chart. A little different, a little odd to be seeing that, considering that for years it was always Jason Witten. Right now he's not necessarily fantasy relevant until we can see otherwise. And Jaguars listed Keenan Cole and Dante Moncrief as the projected starters on their Week 1 depth chart. Interesting that D.D. Westbrook is not on that list. However, Moncrief has been productive with the Colts when a competent and healthy Andrew Luck was throwing to him, and when Dante Moncrief was actually healthy, which hadn't been so much over the last couple of years. So, Keelan Cole is still the guy to own there. Moncrief may be a kind of a streaming type that you can maybe look at, but other than that, I'm not putting a whole lot in Dante Moncrief. Keelan Cole is the main guy that I'm interested in. So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get to the mailbag. There's only a couple questions in here for Week 1. So let's go ahead and just hop into these. Like I said, there's only a couple. In a PPR league, who do you take, Sammy Watkins or Brandon Cooks? Here's what's kind of difficult about this whole situation. Both these guys are going to different teams. Sammy is behind Tyreek Hill. He is not going to be the number one option. Brandon Cooks could possibly be the number one option. However, we're still dealing. Goff has a pretty good connection with Robert Woods, and another really good connection with Cooper Kupp. Plus, he really helped out Gurley being able to catch the ball out of the backfield. So there's a lot of options there in LA. I think that Watkins could be a solid play, but for me it's Brandon Cooks, just because I think that he provides more versatility for the league, for a PPR league, because he can catch the ball. He may be used on the jet sweeps and stuff, sort of like Tavon Austin used to be, except Brandon Cooks is better than Tavon Austin. I think that Sammy tends to have a little more trouble staying healthy. So overall, I think that Brandon Cooks is probably the way to go. Again, you look at overall production over the last couple of years, Cooks has been the more productive player. Sammy Watkins has had more issues staying healthy. Last year he did have the problem, he gets traded to the Rams and didn't really get a chance to know the playbook. He's had more time with Kansas City. However, Kansas City is also dealing with a rookie quarterback. So I'm more to lean towards Brandon Cooks. Again, he's got a guy who's been there, a quarterback that's been there a couple of years. And while it is loaded with targets, I think the high-powered offense of McVay could provide more opportunity for Brandon Cooks than Sammy Watkins will get in Kansas City. And then, like I said, there's only a couple questions. Here's our other question that was posted in our mailbag. Get Mike Evans, give Adam Thielen and Lamar Miller non-PPR, and his running backs, if he gives up Miller, would be McCaffrey and Lynch. What do we think? So, for me, Thielen was the more productive wide receiver last year. Now, he does have a new quarterback, and there's a lot of speculation that may mean that he's not going to put up quite the numbers that he did this last year. That's possible. The year before, though, Thielen was showing that he can be that breakout guy and put up numbers. Miller has the opportunity to basically be the workhorse back for Houston. They just don't have a great offensive line. Mike Evans is dealing with the fact that he had a little bit of a down year last year. Jameis Winston was out for a while. Jameis Winston is already going to be out for 3 or 4 games. I can't remember. I think it's only 3 games. And now they've said that he may not even get the starting job back once he comes back. So throw all that into account. I personally would stay with Adam Thielen and Lamar Miller. I'm also unsure a little bit of Marshawn Lynch. So I would rather have the McCaffrey, Miller, and Lynch, all 3 of them together, and keep Thielen, who, again, was more productive than Mike Evans last year anyways, and just avoid the Evans headache. Deal with the headache you already have right now with Lamar Miller and Marshawn Lynch, and I think that you'll probably be better off. So that's it for the mailbag. Now, like I said, I had a little bit of a rant. If you guys follow in our Facebook page or our Facebook group, it's the you can look it up. It's the SkullKing Fantasy Football Group. I had a little bit of a rant today, and here's the rant. I'll just go ahead and read it to make it easy. We've already had a few people post their fantasy drafts in our group, and we love it. We love it when you guys do that. Keep them coming. If you still want to get our opinion on your draft, please get onto the SkullKing Fantasy Football Group on Facebook. Post them in there. We'll give you our honest opinions. Personally, for me, I have stopped posting drafts and fantasy football discussion boards and asking people what they think. I'm not going to do it anymore. Here's why. I know how I want to draft my teams. I don't do it like everyone else. I base a lot of my picks off of patterns, statistics, what draft position I have, what the scoring system dictates. It's going to make things different, believe it or not. I've seen too many people with teams similar to mine, especially the way that I draft. If I get the position that I want, a 0 running back draft strategy. It focuses on wide receivers early and picking up value running backs later that will be productive, but could possibly move into bigger roles later on in the season if an injury occurs. Too many people that have drafts like that get told that their draft sucks because they have no running backs. No, your running backs are terrible. You need to trade one of your wide receivers immediately and get a better running back. To me, this is ignorance. It's people not paying attention or just not having enough information to make a good decision or to make a good comparison and to actually give good advice. We at SkullKing will not tell you guys that your draft sucks because you didn't grab certain types of players. We may say that some of your players are more risky than others, and sometimes those risks pay off. Sometimes they don't. Last year, I took a lot of risky players. It did not pay off. I finished second to last in the league because of it. However, we will back up what we say with stats and as much evidence as we can pull out. Just news, notes, what we know off of film. We will base those off of that, not just feelings. Well, there's only so many running backs this year, so you have to grab me. No, you don't. You don't have to do that. We will not use there are too many good running backs this year to not take one early. Sorry, I'm not going to use that excuse. I will look at the stats, the way the trends play out, and if it means that a running back's or a wide receiver was the better pick, I'm going with the wide receiver over the running back. We want you guys to post your drafts for us to critique. We will be honest with you on our opinions based off of stats, experience, football knowledge, whatever we have. We are trying to educate fantasy football players, not embarrass players who didn't do it how we think they should have. That's not what we want. We want to be able to educate. We want you guys to be able to have fun. So please, again, show us those drafts, whether it's in the SleeperBot app, you follow us on Instagram, you follow us on Twitter, you follow us on Facebook, in the fantasy football group. We don't care where you want to know. We will give you an honest opinion. Again, we may tell you that it's a little more risky, it's a little less risky. There's some players that you may want to shuffle around, but we're not going to tell you that your draft all out sucks, because you know what? We're not going to find that out until the end of the season anyways. It may be that all the players that we think that I may think that even have evidence for are not going to be all that great this season, blow up, and other guys just, crap the bed and can't get the job done. Or there's a run of injuries, knock on wood, and other guys are able to step up. So, all that being said, show us your drafts. Don't be afraid of how we may critique it. Again, we want to do our best to educate and to let you guys have fun. So, all that being said, again, we hope you guys have a great season. We've got one more episode coming up tomorrow night, our big prediction show. Hope you guys are up for that, and we are definitely ready for the NFL season to get going. So, again, this has been the SkullKing Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan Skullrud. We look forward to doing this throughout the rest of the season, and hope you guys have a nice night. Hey, SkullKing Nation, thank you for listening to the SkullKing Football Podcast. Did you like this episode? If so, be sure to go to iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and YouTube to subscribe. Also, please leave us a rating and reviews to let us know how we can better help you rule your leagues.